Perhaps if I had not documented, I may not know what I don't know, because in my mind is very corrupt. No, it can just tell me that whatever I'm thinking is right, and I would do get away with it. But when I start writing, it's written in the document and it's there out of my mind. So maybe I would not have known what I don't know if I had not written. And over a period of time, all these experiences would have gone away with me, and I would have regretted not having shared my experience. The writing becomes a mirror, way of a mirror, because when I'm expressing it outside of from my mind, it is going to hand and being written. Then I'm able to get a feedback. I'm able to get a mirror to what I am doing. The clarity of this documentation is being able to recognize what stimulated me to do something, why did I do it, what did I do, and then at the end there's a element of humility, requesting if what I did is something you may agree to, is where I'm looking for feedback on my actions. So when you're looking at this topic of self to society and documenting my experiences, perhaps I would also look at four different perspectives of looking at this perspective is to why would I do this? What would I have done? How would I have done it? And what could be the possible impact? So let us walk through this journey. First thing which I would look at is what if I did not document this? So before getting into what happens when I document, let us look at this interesting aspect, which some I think it's a Greek philosophical approach of finding way to success. It's called the via negativa. So rather than looking at how I can be successful, what if I had not done something and examine the failures before the success? So perhaps if I had not documented, I may not know what I don't know, because in my mind is very corrupt. No, it can just tell me that whatever I'm thinking is right, and I would get away with it. But when I start writing, it's written in the document and it's there out of my mind. So maybe I would not have known what I don't know if I had not written. And over a period of time, all these experiences would have gone away with me, and I would have regretted not having shared my experience. So these are two questions when it came for me to start thinking, why should I write? Since I run an enterprise, I'm part of an organization and I'm responsible for so many people in the enterprise and the growth of the enterprise. If I don't write, then maybe our knowledge would not be known to people. What we do, we don't know known to the people, and our work would not be known. And if, as in Hindi, we say, "Jo dikta hai, wo bikta hai." So we had not written, it will not be seen. It's not something that somebody will buy. Then when I look back and go out of the enterprise, I'm part of an industrial ecosystem. I find that I have seen a lot of failures in others, from which I have started to understand what I should not do. Now, if I had not written, I would not have shared my failures and successes, and the other industry peers may not get access to those experiences from which they could also learn. And for the community, so when we look at building a province or a nation or a state, it is this collective experiences of failures and successes which build the community. Experiential learning becomes a very important part. So these are some of the reasons which I think we could reflect. And I would like to pause here and ask you to reflect on, would these be some reasons which you would also look at to document? And if you have not documented, would you like to reflect on that? So just think about some of the questions of what you may lose if you did not document. What may be missing if you do not document? So what drove me to document? And I look at those four aspects again: for myself, my enterprise, my industry, the industry, and the community. So over a period of time, I realized my purpose has been about giving. So as I have grown up in a family the values which we have received is about giving. And I somewhere I remember this one very important statement our mother used to tell us is karm kar phal ki ichha mat kar. So that means focus more on the giving rather than without any expectation. And that is something which is very intrinsic to the way have been living. And so when I'm writing, it naturally happens that I would be living my purpose. So for myself, it is very aligned to what I wish to be or what I want to do or what I connect with personally. And for my enterprise, I would have gone through a lot of experiences and people who join our company who come from different backgrounds. But how would they know how do I take decisions? So this documentation of, and particularly I've started writing my decisions in a very regular. So as I started sharing my experiences and this quality of experiences went on to becoming more structured, my experiences were being transferred to the enterprise, the people around me. So if I go for a service call, how is it that I am interacting? So my visit reports would be not just one line, I visited and I finished, but I would try to give more detail. If I was, and this is something I remember in 97, 98, even many years ago, I have been documenting my experiences, which is somewhere helping the people who are working with me to understand the journey or take that as a reference. So these experiences build my enterprise as well. Again, the enterprise is experiences. So one is the individual experiences, and then I start writing about the enterprise experiences. These enterprise experiences and the journey for a micro small industry or for an MSME or for an individual going through this changing times. For example, today we are living in a world where there are trade barriers coming in. Suddenly there's a COVID coming in and there's different changes in the environment. And how the enterprise reacts to that is what I started to document because I knew that somewhere these are some references which industries could use around us, some peer industries who could relate to it. And the collection of these industries again go to the community. So whenever I start to write, I look at this natural flow from myself to enterprise to industry to the community. And this is something which has kept pushing me to continuously document, and the frequency has started going up as I continue. Now, there's a framework which I had the benefit of being having access to an excellent program called the Temperate Hira program in our country, a program under the UN banner, which was helping me understand the cultural context, the thinking context of behind the writing. And so there's a philosophical framework called the Johari framework. Johari are two research, Joe and Hari, I think, two people who did this research, and it's available. And you look at information sharing from four blocks, an open area, a blind spot, a hidden area, and an unknown area. Now, when I don't share and my experiences stay in the hidden area, others can't benefit. Is again connecting to the reason why I would document. And when I don't share my experiences, then I will not even get feedback. So this is something which I started to realize. The more I wrote, the more feedback I get, the more feedback I got, and I moved my experiences into open area. My engagement went up with people. My engagement went up. I started to get different perspectives. So I was not limited to what I know in my small area of or circle of knowledge, and I could get a lot of information from peers and people who read what I was writing. And there's a very specific bias which we may be aware of called the blind spot. Because I can't see here, but there's a mirror which can see this part of my face. There are certain areas which I can't see. Similarly, there are certain areas of my knowledge or my ability to understand which I cannot see. So I need a mirror. The writing becomes a mirror, way of a mirror, because when I'm expressing it outside of from my mind, it is going to hand and being written. Then I'm able to get feedback. I'm able to get a mirror to what I'm doing. And this is for my own learning. But as I kept on doing this, there was a certain amount of resonance which started coming in. Resonance is a physical property of two atoms getting the right frequency and sharing. And the larger the open area became, I was able to connect to people who had similar thought processes, who were thinking in a similar pattern, were looking at similar or may have similar purposes where we were able to align with each other. And it built relationship because one, the people who were reading this were able to see there's a continuous flow of information which is not based on more on the impression side of trying to impress somebody with certain stories, but more to do with the factual. So I was not manufacturing some stories and I was placing facts as it happened in a simple way. So that transparency led to building of trust. And trust is the stepping stone to building relationships and getting engaged with the community. Today, if I'm sitting here and speaking to you, is I think is one of the reasons why WishwaTalks found me resonating with what they are looking at. And so this framework of continuously moving myself from the hidden area to the open area and getting feedback so the blind spots could be opened up is how this documentation is helping me. So I would request if Jishanji, if you can put out a poll to really find out what stops people from writing. And if you could get some feedback on what are the reasons, what are the top reasons why I would write or I would not write. And if you could reflect on that for interaction. So getting those reflections become important that why do I really write or why do I really document or what stops me from writing? So there are 6 different questions and if you can just go through them.
See, about 15 people have interacted with the first question and about 11 with the second one. Requesting all the participants to quickly interact with the poll, all the questions. So why do you usually write or document? About 6 out of 16 people, 38% have mentioned to clarify own thoughts. About 31% say to share knowledge with others. About 19% say to create records for work. And about 13%, that's 2 out of 16. Honestly, I rarely write or document. The second question is what stops you from writing or sharing? About 1 person said fear of judgment. 5 out of 12 have said not enough time. That's 42%. Unsure if it has value. That's 1 person out of 13. I prefer speaking over writing. That's 5 people out of 13. That's 38%. The third question is writing for express, impress, or resonate. About 67% people, 8 out of 12 have mentioned express, for myself, authentic sharing. 0% have selected impress. About 25% people, 3 out of 12, have mentioned resonate, see if it connects and refines my message. 1 person has mentioned, I haven't thought about it this way. Fourth question, if you started documenting today, what would you focus on first? About 42% say personal habits, behaviors. About 42% say work learnings and experiences. 17% people selected 2 out of 12. Community or social issues, 0% for creative ideas or hobbies. The fifth question is, do you believe individual documentation can influence communities and society? About 67% say yes, definitely, 8 out of 12. 4 people out of 12 have selected maybe, depends on context. 0% for not really, community needs collective action. 0% for I'm not sure.
I think it's an excellent contribution. Thank you so much for participating. The one reflection which I can share, and perhaps it may come up in the next slide, if I am able to clarify my own thoughts, then perhaps I may be able to share the knowledge with others much better. So I would like to look at one, the first preceding the other. Because if I'm not clear of myself, and this is my journey of writing from 2018 to 2025 in a very structured manner in the program Empretech. It's a mindset development program, but also allows me to practice my experiences through a well-researched empirical framework on what makes somebody successful or what doesn't make somebody successful. So starting from 2018, initially the program was looking only at capturing small content in a paragraph form, from paragraph moving into putting into some sort of structure, whether this was an achievement, it was a planning behavior, and what kind of behavior it was. As the program transformed from 2018 to 2020, 2020 saw a few more changes and brought more clarity. And in by 9th of April 2020, when this program evolved, the clarity of this documentation is being able to recognize what stimulated me to do something, why did I do it, what did I do, and then at the end there's a element of humility, requesting if what I did is something you may agree to, is where I'm getting looking for feedback on my actions. And then when I started writing this, what I realized was that sometimes there's a gap between the stimulus and the intent, and that's where those biases were sitting. So the more I wrote, the more was my clarity in how I was processing decisions. And today, for example, when we started a session, the first slide had these four elements: why, what, how, and impact. And this is quite similar to stimulus, intent, action, and request. So if I don't know the why, and if I don't know what stimulated me, and I just get into an action mode, is something which I used to do. And this writing has been journey where perhaps I have written more than 3,000 of such decisions in this closed space called Hirajim. And in this year, 2025, was also introducing the element of virtues and values and trying to understand what soul property was driving me. So when I'm trying to write and recognize this, I'm also thinking about myself. And this is something which we can call as a very traditional way India has of Atma Bodha, when you're examining yourself not as yourself. So when I'm writing, so today if I'm speaking to you, tomorrow if I start to write this, I'll be thinking of myself as a fly on the wall on the person who was yesterday. And so writing has something which is very, very deep impression on my own experiences. The way I wrote, the quality of writing which I did, the way I could express is much better. And in the next slide, you'll see this as a scoreboard where you will see that over this 20 from November 2018, 18 November 2018 till now, this is called Seva is a social economic value addition, is how we name it. How I'm able to reflect on my own self. What are those behaviors or competencies which I naturally align to? And this helps me make my own SWOT. The documentation makes my own SWOT. And when somebody wants to collaborate with me, they see the same SWOT. What is this person about? Who is he? There's nothing about whether I'm a technical person or I'm a former financial expert. It's about the who am I, is what the documentation brings to life. And this impact on myself is connected to my own statement, is using philosophy to live the quality of life in community is what drives me today. So then if we talk on the impact on society, this is the impact on myself, is today this writing has led me to areas. So in the Johari window, there was an unknown window, which I was not aware where nobody was aware that I had those capabilities. So there are certain things neither I knew nor the world knew. And today I have moved into working in the society as an advisor on the development program, as a professor of practice, collaborating with startups, partnering in research and development with multiple specialists. And I think my writing has a very, very important role to play. And this is how I feel my documentation is making an impact on the society. And that's why when I look at sustainable development, if I am a part of a larger system, how is it that I can impact the larger system? I think the first is if I can bring clarity to myself, build on myself, contribute to the society, and build on it.